So, good evening everybody, my name is Oseh and tonight we are playing Farm Sim 19 on Field Mountain, also known as Oseh Family Farm, and we just had a little bit of fun where Mrs. Oseh put way too much fertiliser in the spreader and ended up with the wheels in the air. But fortunately you all missed that. Head over here and start planting this field. Okay. There's no oopsies when you're driving on the road. Okay. I think I'll just drive straight down the grain here. So, the soybeans are going to plant very slowly. This is vaguely straight, this isn't vaguely straight, this is horrendously not straight. Let's scoop it down to here. Left. Okay. Let's put the lights back on because I can't see a darn thing here. This is where we want to be. And
car.
We're in Sweden. They drive on the same side as America. Sounds like Mrs. Oseh thinks she's in England. Maybe I should do an English map next. Won't get confused. So this seeded, I'm finding it not too bad. Not quite as easy as the Amazon. Pretty much from now onwards we probably won't be using plough quite so much. There's stuff on it. Oh. Yeah. Well, that's why we get paid 5,000 for doing it. Because it's not that huge. Hey long hauler, far away. Welcome to the street tonight. How do I make a proper cup of tea? Well, if you want the quick way, you get a cup and you put hot water in it and then you throw a tea bag in it. And you don't want any of that wishy-washy American tea, which you kind of need to throw a tea bag in the cup and then leave it there for 3 days to brew, and then you should get some decent strength tea out of it. But we tend to get our tea from the local grocery store on the international aisle, and look for the British section and buy some proper English tea, because the tea bags there are a little bit more strong slightly more tea in them. And that'll brew you 1 cup of tea. Now if you've got a teapot, you get a teapot, put hot water in it, and then add loose tea preferably, and it's typically 1 spoon per person or per cup of tea you're planning to make, plus an extra one for the pot. And you leave that to brew, and once it's brewed you have a good strong tea. You can put tea bags in teapots if you want to, but you don't need to spare one for the pot. Just stick 1 tea bag in the pot for each person having a cup of tea. What about loose leaf? Loose leaf, I generally, once again, I'd go with the teapot idea. Fill it with water and then use a spoon to dish the tea into the teapot. 1 per person or 1 per cup. And we're talking classic English cup and saucer cup rather than mug. You probably want about 2, maybe 3 for mugs. Oh yes. Yes, when you use a teapot to make tea, put the milk in the cup and then add the tea. Because chemistry and physics. Now if you're going to make loose if you want to make loose tea in the cup, you can get sort of metal tea thing on a chain. The chain usually has a kind of like a key fob on the end so that you can rest it on the edge of the cup so it doesn't fall in. Okay. They're specially designed for loose tea for people who don't have teapots, and you might have to search it, Google it, whatever, but effectively it's a little metal container with holes in that comes in half, and you put tea in it, put it back together again, and then drop it into a cup of hot water, much like you would with a tea bag. Yes, a tea ball. Okay, that's what they call them, that's what they call them. I know a friend of mine had one back in England. She also had what was called gunpowder tea, which was quite an incredibly strong, seriously strong tea. And for some reason she'd bought it, and because she was into buying weird flavours of tea, and then she discovered nobody else liked it, so I ended up as the only one who was drinking it. But I think I drank most of it before I moved away and we stopped visiting. I don't think so. What do you think about a press pot for tea? Yeah, I haven't tried it. I tend to be tea bag in a cup or mug, or if I have one, I may do a teapot. Most of the time I buy my tea in tea bags, but British tea bags, not American tea bags. American tea bags are good for iced tea because you kind of leave them to brew for a week and it gets the flavour up, but it's not really good for a hot cup of tea because by the time it's finished brewing, the tea's cold. I kind of like my tea hot. I mean, you can try a press pot and see what happens. I've never tried it, as I said, but I don't own one because I don't drink coffee. I really wasn't a big tea drinker originally, but I went round to a friend's house, and his mum made everyone tea, and I thought it was vile stuff. But eventually I got used to drinking it. I now drink it straight. Okay. Leaves in boiled water, or leaves in boiling water. No cream, no sugar, no nothing else. Because I like, and yeah, I also like flavoured teas, and obviously if you're loading it up with sugar and milk, then you're not getting the benefits of the flavour. I usually take most questions like that as serious. As I said, I don't drink coffee. I hate coffee. I hate the smell of coffee. But in many places I've worked, I've ended up as one of the few people who will actually brew the coffee. Far too many people will drink the coffee in the pot, and when there isn't they'll complain that there's no coffee in the pot. I did work in a cafe for a while, so I kind of had to learn how to brew coffee. Not that it's difficult. Well, heck, we could have gone down the path of, well, you get a barrel of tea and you throw it in Boston Harbour and then see what transpires. I also tend to drink my tea caffeinated. I don't believe there's any point in drinking decaffeinated tea. Much like I don't think there's any point drinking decaffeinated Mountain Dew or Coke or Pepsi. If I wanted decaffeinated, I could drink some water. Probably feel the same way about coffee if I liked it. What's that? Oh, that's me gone live. Okay. Oh, notification that I'm live just went out. I always felt that British Armed Forces were very sarcastic when it came to war. We all wore red coats so you could see us coming. When the aeroplane was invented, we painted targets on the wings so you knew where to shoot. Well, it really helpful. Yeah, we figured the Germans probably couldn't shoot us if they didn't know where to aim. Give them a sporting chance, you know what, hope. Okay, where did I get up to? It just looks like the end bit there. attack their prestigious battleships with biplanes. Except the Tirpitz, which we dropped, I believe, tall boy bombs they were called. Great big 10,000 pound bombs that were dropped by the same squadron that hit the dams and became known as the Dam Busters. They were kind of a special mission squadron. I mean, they still did your standard night bombing, while the Americans were crazy and did the daytime bombing. But the Dam Busters also did specialist bombing with big bombs or round bombs that rotated, so they would skim across the water. But it was devotions made by politicians who lost a battle. Well, basically, I mean, actually, the whole idea of the brightly coloured uniforms was so you could identify your compatriots, because obviously, when your weapons of choice were sharp, pointy sticks that you either poked people with or slung into the air from a bow, it was kind of everything. All the fighting was done at visual range. All the fighting was done in rank and file. So it kind of made sense to be able to identify the guys coming from the other side. So if they were in blue coats, they were French, and if they were in red coats, they were British. And there wasn't a concept of hiding. You stood in a line. If you were ranged weapons like bows, you stood in a line, and some guy at the end would tell you when to let loose, and you'd all fire at the same time. The accuracy sucked, so you weren't really aiming at somebody. You were just aiming in the general direction of the bad guys, and you let rip with the bow and hope you hit something. But you threw enough arrows down range, and it was sort of something's bound to hit something. And the early muskets were pretty much the same. You just did, is it fusillade firing, where you just all aimed, you pointed the gun in the general direction of the enemy and looked at your sergeant, and when the sergeant dropped his handkerchief, you all fired your guns. It made a loud bang, and maybe somebody on the other end fell over, but generally not. No, the Dam Busters flew. Lancasters, the British 4-engined heavy bomber. I think the Rage you're referring to was flown by another squadron, which was also special missions, and their aircraft was the Mosquito, and I love that plane. It was developed by de Havilland, basically out of his own money, and he basically came up with this idea of a plane built out of wood. The only sort of strategic resources it needed was a pair of Merlin engines, and he invited, he proposed the idea to the Air Ministry, and the Air Ministry sort of said, oh, you want to make a plane out of wood, do you? How First World War of you? We make planes out of metal these days. And so he went ahead anyway, and the plane was an absolute success. It was effectively the first successful multi-role aircraft in the world. It was designed as a high-speed bomber, could carry a bomb load equivalent to the B-25 Mitchell, was fitted with 4 .707 machine guns and 4 20mm cannons, which is quite a nasty payload, even not including the bombs. They also modified some, took out the cannons and put in a 6-pounder for anti-ship, anti-submarine work. But the whole operation was distributed over Britain, where you had cabinet makers and piano makers all fashioning wings and parts for the plane, and it would be assembled in a central location and then flown straight out to the squadrons. Well, they were sent out to France, the particular squadron. I can't remember what the squadron name was, but basically the French resistance contacted the RAF and said, basically, we've got a bunch of guys in a German prison, or in a French prison, held by the Germans, and they're all going to get executed, and we'd kind of prefer if you could get them out for us. And the RAF was sort of, we'll see what we can do, but you know, it's going to be kind of difficult because of you not considered that if we've got aeroplanes flying over the prison dropping bombs on it, all my guys might get killed. The French resistance sort of responded, well, that's okay. I want to go down there because that's what the bit I haven't done yet. They said we'd prefer to get bombed by you guys than shot by the Germans. So the RAF kind of said, yeah, okay, fine. There was a deadline for the mission to be done, because obviously there was the date of the execution. So they had to do the mission before then. And weather was completely lousy the week rolling up to it. And it was pretty much the day before it was supposed to happen. The clouds cleared and it was sort of, this is the go time. And these guys went across the channel at treetop level and made it to France. And an interview with one of the guys said they basically came down the street through the town up to the prison wall, and they were flying so low they had to climb to clear the prison wall. And they dropped the bombs with delayed fuses so that they would skid along the ground, hit the wall and explode after the planes had cleared the area. And they managed to destroy the prison walls. The second group went in and destroyed the the barracks where the Germans were all having lunch. The prisoners escaped. The French resistance were outside to help them get away, and the raid was a complete success. But Mosquito, very special plane, also used by American special operations, sort of the forerunners to the CIA, because they wanted a special or an uncrackable communication system. And what they did was their spies over in France, they would give them tight beam radios, and the Mosquitoes would or there were some special Mosquitoes with radio sets in the back. There isn't a back in those planes. And the CIA, or the forerunners to the CIA, their operatives would sit in the back radioing in... Oh, you can grab that water tank and go and feed the water to the cows. That's good. Go water the cows. And what was it? And they would fly a set path, and the operative on the ground would be told basically when and where to point his radio. And he would point his radio at the sky, and if the Mosquito happened to be in the right place and the dude on the ground happened to be pointing it in the right direction, they could broadcast a message. The Germans couldn't detect it because it was a very narrow band communication. The problem was the radio operator in the Mosquito said, yeah, it's kind of a precarious position to be in because there isn't a third seat in a Mosquito, and so they were using a radio on the fuel tank in the rear of the fuselage. And he said the fuel tanks actually leaked a bit, so it was kind of worrying. They were also used as pathfinders, dropping flares for the heavy bombers, because they were the most accurate planes, or they were the most accurate delivery system in the war. I said they carried the same bomb load as a Mitchell B-25, except they dropped less tonnage for more accurate hits. I mean, somewhere in the region of 3 to 4 times more accurate than a Mitchell in general bombing and damage caused. But, yeah, I can't remember what let's have a look. What did the Dam Busters actually do? Dam Busters, IMDb. And the Dam Busters raid on the 10-ton bomb dropped to 40,000 feet. The Dam Busters raid technically wasn't that successful, because while they destroyed the dams, that's okay. While they destroyed the dams were repaired fairly quickly, and it didn't really devastate the German industry. But it was seen as at least a moral sort of victory, in the kind of like, haha, that's what we can do. And a big propaganda coup, but not so much a good thing. Not long-term success. Kind of like the Doolittle raid. It wasn't particularly effective on Japan, but it was a kick in the nuts for, we can hit you at home. I believe the Doolittle raid lost all the planes, had to ditch because they had to take off early.